Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Three Girls, One Monthly Catch Up, where we will talk to each other and with you all about all the things that we have been up to in the previous month. So, we will be going over our usual categories for June. And so, we will just go ahead and get started right away and cover the topic of the tarot and oracle decks that we used in June. So, Sarah, starting with you.
All right. And so the thing that I need to mention right off the bat is, as you'll notice, my backdrop is different because I am up at the lake cabin that my sister and brother-in-law rented for the summer, which I will be talking more about later in the video. However, despite being able to do this video from the lake place, I totally forgot to bring all of the decks that I want to talk about. So pictures will be inserted and I have no cards to hold up and show. So I'm just going to talk about them. So anyway, so I use a couple of different decks in the month of June. So for the first 2 weeks, I used the Rainbow Tarot, which was a deck that was new to me and I really liked it. The artwork of it is great. It has this very colorful, like sort of naive art style. Each card has a sort of limited color palette. It's really fun and kind of quirky and just a really cute deck. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun working with it. It's very much just a Rider-Waite-Smith clone in a different art style. So, there wasn't really anything super exciting or interesting about it necessarily, other than just the art style being really fun. The one thing I will say about that deck is that it has the sharpest gilding I've ever felt on a deck, like,
Oh,
ever. It was so painful. So I really wanna keep the deck, so I think I'm gonna just, like, trim a sliver off of each
mhm.
side so that I can use it without the gilding, but, yeah, it was, like, actually painful to shuffle. So for the second 2 weeks of June, I used a deck that I've had, like, hanging around for a long time and sort of, like, never got around to using it because I needed to trim it first, and so I finally trimmed it and used it for the second 2 weeks of June, and that is the Gaian Tarot, which is by, Joanna Powell Colbert, who is the same person who, did the artwork for the Herb Crafters Tarot, and, like, you guys all know that the Herb Crafters is a favorite deck of mine. So, since the Gaian Tarot is very well loved and by the same artist, I picked it up, but I had to get obviously the more recent edition, which is by I want to say I think it's Rockpool. And it has huge like blue borders and gold gilding and none of that works. So I trimmed that all off. And then I used the Gaian Tarot and it just fell, like, totally flat for me. Like, and I know
No.
people love that deck, like, so many people love that deck, and there's, like, elements of it that I thought I would love, I've mentioned before that that deck to me has sort of a Pacific Northwest aging hippie vibe, which is like all of the adults that I grew up around are exactly that. So, it does have that very sort of like nostalgic kind of feel for me in a lot of ways, and it very much like reminds me of my upbringing and stuff like that. That said, I don't know, it just didn't really do much for me, and maybe it's because I was always comparing it to the Herb Crafters or something, I don't know, but I didn't have a great time with it, so I'm probably gonna end up passing it along, so at some point, a very well trimmed I did a very good job, a very nicely trimmed copy of the Guy and Tarot is going to be coming up in one of my declutter videos, so look forward to that. The only other deck that I wanted to mention is because I am doing my deck and walk, I'm using the Wild Way Oracle, for cards for the deck-ins, and then it occurred to me that I wanted to be able to also display the tarot card associated with each deck in along with my Wild Way card while I'm doing that. And so I actually a deck that just came out in a tinned edition, a small tinned edition, is the Zodiac Tarot, which is it's a US Games deck, and it's
Mhm.
got really cool artwork, but it has all of the astrological symbols on all of the cards, and it has all the deck-ins like indicated on all the cards. So I just picked up a tin, a Zodiac Tarot in a tin, just so that I could have the cards to display. And when I like the deck, so when I'm done doing that, I'm probably going to end up using it as well. But for now, it's just being used as little display cards to go along with my Wild Way Tarot while I do the deck and walk.
First and foremost, I lovely bag from Sarah over at
Mm.
Santa Boutique on Etsy. But you know what's in here? The behemoth, like
Yeah.
huge deck, ridiculous, that I finally was able to finish my self study with. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Someone
congratulations.
Oracle. Yeah, look at how freaking.
Well done.
But yeah, I finally went ahead and finished my self study. So I, wrote all my little notes and my associations and my little DIY guidebook. You're having fun with something, but when you're that close to the finish line, you just wanna get
Get
it
it
done and
done.
dusted.
Yeah.
So that lit just such a fire under my ass to just keep going and actually finish it. So it took over a year, but
Mhm.
hey, got it done, and I'm feeling so accomplished about it. But yeah.
Honestly, that's incredibly impressive because I'm still, like, at the point of only having done, like, less than 10 cards. So I I have incredible respect for your
Thank you.
diligence in completing your self-study.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I really was proud of myself because I mean, this is
It's
a
big.
sizable deck.
Yeah.
So,
And there's an
and it was fun.
expansion, which I don't have yet. So
And yeah, I don't have the expansion either. So I'm not sure if I plan on getting it or not. Um, I feel like if I got it, I would be then compelled to then do another study, in which case I think I want a break. So if I am going to get that expansion pack, it's not going to be soon. I'm going to
Mm,
hold off a little bit and
mhm,
just do some other things.
yeah,
But it was fun. It was a good time for
mhm,
sure.
yeah.
Um,
I made sure to use a notebook for the guidebook that I'm creating that has enough pages in it that
yeah.
I can add the expansion if I want to. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah. Totally understand. I mean, and even without the expansion, my God, it's like what? How many cards? Like
Mhm.
close to 100, if not
It's
over. I
close to
can't remember.
96 or something like that. It's almost 100 cards.
Yeah, so it's like, do I even need an expansion pack? I mean, there is so much deck in this
Mhm,
deck.
yeah,
So
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like it's a really robust deck all on its own that I don't necessarily need it, but we'll see. We'll see. So I finished that, and then what else did I work with? I did work with the Spirit Keepers Tarot for a week. Like I was jumping around. So Spirit Keepers Tarot. I did another week with the Tarot of Mystical Moments. Speaking of sharp gilding, which I did
Mhm.
trim off that deck. I was salty about having to do that,
mhm.
but it had to be done.
It's
So
coming out in a 10th edition too,
yes,
so which I
Yeah, I'm
cannot
just
wait
waiting
for.
for the 10th
Yeah,
edition now,
I
I think.
cannot wait. I'm so excited.
I'm pretty excited as well. And then let's see. So the one that I was particularly excited to work with, that I got with some birthday money, is this My Melody Tarot, which is it's out of print, but it is a
So cute.
Sanrio licensed deck. Um, so yeah, I was able to find a copy on eBay and put an offer in for it. But it is just the most freaking adorable thing ever.
I do like
And
my movie.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clone, and yeah, with just my melody, and it's freaking amazing. It put me in such a great mood.
Mhm.
And yeah, the production quality is great. The cardstock is great. I can shuffle it. It's not super thick. Um, yeah, it's not glossy, which I don't mind gloss, but it's just yeah, really really cute.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I paired with this might sound odd. I paired it with my JBG Oracle, and they
Mhm.
actually worked pretty well together.
Mhm.
Wow.
They did. They really did. So I was like pleasantly surprised by that. So that
Mhm.
was a good feeling. But yeah,
Managed to
adorable.
find the hidden darkness in Sanrio.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
then finally, so I had been planning to work with the Chicoli Mini
Mhm.
in June as well. And I could not because, well, so somebody had asked when I showed this in a previous Three Girls if like the size was, good enough. to see everything clearly. And I had said, "Oh yeah, I lied. I lied. My old eyes they weren't having it with this. So I was like, I can't. I just can't. I want to, but I can't because I can't see anything. So I went ahead and then purchased the full size version, which I haven't worked with yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, this is still it's really cute. Just the size of it is really cute. But
Mhm.
and I think people with really good eyes like this should be totally fine.
Those Los Scarabeo mini decks are tiny, like the Llewellyn and Los Scarabeo ones,
Well,
like they're really
yes,
small, really
yes,
small.
yeah.
So,
I think these Los Scarabeo ones are slightly bigger,
mm,
but not by much.
mhm.
And I think a good chunk of that's like border.
Just border, yeah.
Yeah.
So image wise, they might actually be comparable.
Mhm,
But yeah, wasn't happening. It just wasn't.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
got myself, the full size. So we shall see. And I actually also then, while I was at it, got the Oracle too. Anyway, so determined on this.
No other way. No.
As long as I was shopping, I figured I just,
That was like a true confessions. While I was out, I got the Oracle too. Moving on. I won't be very long at all. I only worked with one deck in June. Again, I seem to be getting into this habit of pulling out a deck at the beginning of the month and then just really enjoying myself with it and not changing it. And I actually worked with my Everyday Witch in June because I haven't used it in so long. And I think we've had a couple of conversations about it in our lives and stuff. And I was like, sorry. And I was like, I really want to get this deck out. I just really want to work with it for a week. I'll just get it out for a week. And yeah, I used it all month. And
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to say about it that we haven't already, me and Julie between us, especially, haven't already said a million times before.
Yeah.
I just love this deck. It's just such a workhorse deck for me.
Mhm.
So good.
I know.
So good.
Mine is so unbelievably knackered, which I'm also aware is very British of me. Sorry. But it is like I've shown it before, but the edges are just peeling away and it's it's completely bent out of shape. And
It's well loved.
I know it's graying around the edges and stuff, but it's like, I think I got it in early 2018. In fact, I think I got it in June 2018.
Oh, okay.
So like
Wow.
6 years, yeah. So it's been pretty
Well loved.
well loved, yeah. And I keep looking at thinking, should I buy another copy?
Mhm.
But I actually quite like that it's a bit
Mhm.
tattered.
Absolutely.
So,
No, totally.
Well broken in.
so, yeah, so that's all I did really, was work with this as much
Mhm.
as possible because I love this deck.
Yeah.
So much.
It feels so good to spend a whole month with a deck that you love and know so well. It just sometimes it's just like it's so comforting, you know.
Yeah, I seem to have got other. So I'm sure I did the same last month and possibly even the month before, where I'm just like, I picked out a deck that I really, really love, and then I ended up using it for the whole month.
Now we are on to the next category of books. So, Sarah.
Right. Okay, well, I read a couple of books in June, and one of them that I will mention just to plug the video we did about it, I did reread Nettle and Bone in preparation for the video that we did on Nettle and Bone. We did a live stream, which was really, really fun. And so that is, where is that? It's on Heather's channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're interested in seeing us talk about Nettle and Bone, then check that out. But I won't talk about it because we've already talked about it a lot. So I did read a couple of other books. One of them is, I don't know if it's Cursed Bunny or Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, which is another short story collection. Bora Chung is a Korean author. And she writes sort of like sci-fi-ish, fantasy-ish short stories. And I liked it. I had read her other collection first, which is called Your Utopia. And if that one, it was like a little uneven. There were some stories that I liked, and there were some stories that I didn't like as much. Cursed Bunny was also a bit uneven, but I felt like it leaned more toward the side of stories that I liked. Like there were some stories in it that I really, really enjoyed. So, but the book that I read in June that I really, really, really enjoyed was The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty, which I read based on Heather's recommendation because she talked about it and recommended it a couple months back in one of these videos, and I got intrigued because lady pirates always intrigue me. I always get very excited about lady pirates. It takes place in and around like the Indian Ocean, especially sort of like the south coast of the Arabian Peninsula and east coast, northeast coast of Africa, in medieval times, and so it's all about like medieval piracy basically. And the main character is someone who has retired from piracy for various reasons, which you find out as the book goes along, in terms of like tragic past. There's some stuff that happened to her that led her to get out of that life, and then she sort of gets sucked back in as a result of being recruited. The whole recruited for one last job that's going to make her rich. From there on out, she reunites with her old shipmates, and and they go on this new sort of quest together, and it was just fun, great read, top to bottom. It sucked me in from the first page. I loved the main character. She's in her 40s, she's a mom, she's been married like 4 times, her back hurts, still something in her like yearns for that life at sea, and despite the fact that she feels such a strong obligation to her daughter and to her family. It was just an incredibly enjoyable book. It was great. Highly, highly recommend that book.
I read my first book by Colleen Hoover. I know she's a popular author. It Ends With Us, which I audio read it. So I had on my Audible for like ages. And I guess now they even have a movie out, or that's coming out. So yeah, and it was fine. It was fine. Yeah, I mean, I finished it, so.
I didn't cast it aside and discussed, so for whatever that's worth.
I mean, so it's about this it's a romance. It's a contemporary romance, and it's about the protagonist. Her name is Lily Bloom, which very on the nose to what she inspires to do, which is to open up a flower shop in Boston and she's like young, she's like in her 20s. And I think she's using part of her father had recently passed away. So she's using, I guess, part of that inheritance or something like that to open up this flower shop. And, in this time, she meets this doctor named Ryle. And, so there's this romance. And then also, of course, shit goes down. And I won't spoil that. But I will say what I liked about this book is that, the one character could have been vilified due to their actions. And I think the book tries to make the character more well-rounded so that it's not just a flat stock villainous, character. So especially given, the topic that this book discusses. So I did appreciate that. Now that I am seeing who is in the movie, I'm just like, I do not picture any of these actors as these characters. So like Blake Lively is Lily Bloom.
Okay.
And
who's nowhere near 20. I mean, I like her, but the woman cannot pass for 20.
Yeah. And then the love interest Ryle, he's just not what I imagined. Neither is Atlas. So there's also another like childhood love. His name is Atlas.
Why do they all have such ridiculous names? I'm sorry. Ryle, like Rile?
Yeah, Ryle. Not even Riley. It's Ryle.
Atlas. Like riling someone up, like an Atlas. Okay.
Anyway, it was all right. Okay. I also read, this is a short one, this was a birthday gift, and it's called Fangs by Sarah Anderson.
Mhm.
And it's this graphic novel, basically. It's just a lot of fun. It's this graphic novel about this vampire and werewolf meeting in a bar and dating each other.
No.
It is the most adorable shit ever. And there's no really like plot. There's no conflict or anything. It's just kind of a slice of life look at this pair's budding relationship and how they deal with each other's uh you know, vampire slash werewolf personalities. So yeah, it was really cute and a lot of fun. It's just a fun read. And then another, this is a manga. This is Noragami Stray God. This is book 1. And basically this is about, Matt and I already finished watching the series, although it's not a complete series, and I don't know that there are any plans for them to complete the series. And so then I started reading the book, and it's basically about this like homeless god. And he's so that's why they call him the stray god. And he doesn't have a shrine, and basically he has like, anybody pay him a very small fee to do whatever service is needed in hopes that he can raise enough money to actually become like a legitimate god in the eyes of other gods and actually have a shrine. So that was a good time. Reading it in book form, it's pretty close to the series, I have to say. So I just need to now get the other like 5 trillion books. So that's always the thing about manga, where it's just like you have to like then get like all the other volumes.
Yeah, unless you read Death Note, which has like 11.
Yeah, true.
11 and done.
Yeah, very true. Or the I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which was like
You just one bite.
little, exactly.
A standalone. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So
Yeah, me
that
too.
was a good time. And then I audio read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and that was also entertaining. I think
That one's getting made into a film as well,
I think
isn't
it
it?
might, sure.
Yeah.
That would surprise me. And so it's about Evelyn Hugo. She is this movie star from, I don't know, like the 60s and I mean, she had a long-standing career throughout the decades, but I think it started in the 60s and 70s. I can't remember. Anyway, and so now she's a much older, actress, and well, she's not even, I think, working anymore, and she wants her biography written by this kind of unknown magazine writer, I think. So, and that's how the story unfolds. She's basically narrating her life story to this magazine writer for her to write her biography. And so, yeah, I mean, I think she could have used 1 or 2 fewer husbands. I think without, she didn't need as
The title wouldn't have been a snappy.
Different title, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think true. I get it. I also think she didn't need that many husbands. So,
Does anybody need that many husbands?
And the story still would have been pretty fleshed out, but whatever, it's fine.
So I did read a lot, but I read the first thing I finished. I did not start this in June. I would like to preface that before you see the size of this book.
Yeah.
But I finished Dead House Gates in June, which is the second in a 10-book series, which just gets bigger every time. And it's a really, really hardcore fantasy. Like, it's, if I had read this, tried this series when I first started reading fantasy, I'd be like, no, I can't do this. This is not for me. I don't know what this is, but I don't understand it. But it was really, so Gardens of the Moon is the first one, which I really enjoyed. I thought this one was better. It's split up into 4 parts, and part 4 was brutal. Like, it was traumatizing. I can't remember the last time I read a book, put it down, and could not let it go. I just couldn't get over it. And even like days later, I was describing the scene to a friend, and I was like, I could feel myself beginning to well up again. And it was really heavy. And when I think I finished it, and then I went to bed, and I had to like audio read something else just so I could go to sleep. Not because it was like, I mean, it is dark. Stephen Erickson does not pull his punches. It's very graphic in its violence, and there's just like this one scene at the end, which, because of the build up to get there, is so unbelievably tragic and just so heartbreaking and written so well that you feel every single second of it. And I was like, I don't know if I can read anymore. But then I went and bought the third book. So then I moved on to, I audio read The Last Murder at the End of the World, which is the new Stuart Turton one. And that was really good, actually. It was read, I cannot remember the actress's name, but it was read by Lady Danbury from Bridgerton.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was good. So the world has been engulfed in this fog that is killing people, and there's most of the population has been wiped out, and there's one island that is surrounded by fog, but these scientists have managed to create this barrier that stops the fog from getting in. But then somebody, like the main scientist, is murdered, and the barriers are dropped. And one of the women in the story is told, in order to save everybody and for to get the barriers back up, you need to solve this crime. And that's like how the story starts. But the way it's originally narrated, like I think you would have the same problem even if you read it. It's like, this is weirdly written. But then once you get to a point where you realize who the narrator is, and then the narration choice makes sense, and you're like, oh, okay, no, this is actually really clever. I really enjoyed it, and I actually really enjoyed the end as well, which is quite unusual for Stuart Turton, because he writes really good books and never nails the landing ever. So so I really enjoyed it. I read Malice. This is a Japanese translation, the weirdest crime story I've ever read. Basically this author is murdered, and then in the first 10-15% of the book, the murderer confesses. Oh. And then the rest of the book, the police officers are trying to figure out the motive for the crime.
Okay.
Which was really interesting, but very strange. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing, because he confessed, and all the rest of the evidence was circumstantial. The police were saying in the book, they say, like, we can't go to court on just his confession, because what if he changes his mind? There doesn't seem to be any reason why he committed this crime. You need to figure out what the motive is. And I was like, I don't know if that's a cultural thing or if it was just a story device. I don't know, but it was a really interesting way to read a murder mystery, because you're like, this is not really a murder mystery because I know who did it. You just told me. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed the story enough that it kept me going. So, and I think it's one in a series. Like, this particular detective is part of a series. So I'm definitely going to try and get hold of some more, because it was good enough that I want to read more. And then I read Vengeful, was the other thing I read. This is my library book. This also looks big, but has very big writing and was very quick to read. So have either of you read Vicious?
No, I've read other books by V. Schwab, but not Vicious.
Vicious is about two guys who realize that there's a way to create superhuman powers, and it's all to do with dying and coming back to life, and what you think about when you die. And they do this to themselves and get superpowers, but then they become villains. One of them goes to prison, and one of them has like a religious thing where he's like, what we've done is terrible, and I need to go around and kill off all the people that are like us. And that's the first book. The second book is those characters, but there's extra characters, there's new characters as well. The second book was so much better than the first. The first was good. Don't get me wrong. The first was really good. The second was better. It had two female villains. And they were great fun. They were really good fun. I love a good female villain. I always have. And the Victor and Eli, is his name Eli? I can't remember. from the first one. They're also a lot of fun to read. So that was fun. And I sailed through this, absolutely sailed through it. It's like, again, it's like over 500 pages, but it reads so quickly. And then the other thing that I read was nonfiction, which was
Cat butt.
I know, thanks, Kat. Love you too. Which was what was it called? Cultish. It's a book about cults, but it's actually, she uses like right at the beginning, she says that she's using the term cultish in the same way that we use English or Spanish. And the book is actually about the language that cults use and how language is a really important tool for like recruiting people to cults and stuff. And then the second half of the book, the first half of the book really does like talk about real genuine cults, you know, like Jim Jones and all that kind of stuff. And then the second half of the book talks about online gurus like Teal Swan and exercise classes like Soul Cycle and that kind of stuff. And I thought it was really, really interesting.
So next category, we have TV and films. Sarah, what did you watch in June?
Well, of course, I watched part 2 of Bridgerton, which I'm guessing that all 3 of us will probably be like, oh, Heather didn't watch it.
Oh, I
Oh,
haven't done it yet. No, I
Heather
haven't
hasn't watched it yet. Okay. Well, so I did watch part 2 of Bridgerton season 3. And as I said, when we all watched part 1 of Bridgerton season 3. It was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just Bridgerton being Bridgerton, and if you like that, you like it, and if you don't, you won't. So it's that simple. So I did enjoy it. It's always fun. I also have been watching the new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, which in the grand tradition of any Star Wars property that's like profoundly hated by the most toxic corners of the Star Wars fandom, I actually really enjoy it. Same thing, like it's just like I loved The Last Jedi. Like I thought it was one of the best Star Wars movies, and of course, you know, all of the Star Wars fanboys absolutely hate that movie. And it's same thing with The Acolyte. They all hate that show, and I actually am really enjoying it. So just that's how it always turns out somehow. Yeah, it's just about about force using characters and the Jedi. That it takes place, you know, during the time of the Republic, hundreds of years prior to the events of like the main, you know, Star Wars series. And it's good. I'm enjoying it. Like I think it's an interesting story. And the villain reveal was cool. And then the other thing that I've been watching, of course, season 2 of House of the Dragon has started, and so that kind of started toward the end of June. But I started watching that as well, and so I think we're like four episodes in to that at this point. And again, like, you know, I'm not invested in it on the level that I was in Game of Thrones, but it's pleasant and enjoyable to watch a show set in Westeros. Like it's just like that's the level on which I enjoy it. Like it's fun to be in that world. It's not that world is like a particularly fun world by any means. Like there's a lot of terrible stuff that happens, but you know, it's a world that I find very interesting, and I think it's really incredibly done in terms of world building. And so it's just it's fun to go back. So those are kind of the main things aside from my normal Murder, She Wrote nonsense like that those are the main things that I watched in June.
I also watched Bridgerton part 2, and yes, enjoyed it. Since I read the books, I you know, it didn't happen quite the way the book happened, and that was fine. Like I really didn't care. I still enjoyed it. And and then also House of the Dragon season 2. I am enjoying it. I just watched the most recent episode on Sunday, and I'm just like, why do I do this to myself? Because it just stresses me out. Like, was it Game of Thrones? Like one of my all-time favorite series, aside from season 8. But I was just continuously stressed out by that show. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why am I tuning in every week to watch this? Because it's a great show. I would say that House of the Dragon is not on that level, and yet still like entertaining enough. And yeah, like you said, the world building is always
Mhm,
wonderful. And just,
mhm,
and I found this most recent episode, it just brought back that nostalgic stress.
mhm,
I'm like, once again, why am I putting myself through this? And then we also started watching the latest season of Demon Slayer.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, that's been great too. That's always just a good and fun show. So they are just releasing, I think actually they might have released the final episodes of this most recent season, so we have to watch the last two, but that's been
That's
good.
the manga, right, Julie?
That's the manga, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so and that's really it. That's all we've done in June. Yeah.
I didn't watch very much either. So I watched Under Paris, which is a French film about a shark in the Seine. And I watched it because I read an article. It's on Netflix. And I watched it because I read an article saying it's like this generation's Jaws.
Oh.
It was so bad. Like
Also,
comparing it to Jaws is so insulting.
how is there a shark in the Seine? Like, how did that
Yes.
happen? What?
They do explain it in the film about how it got itself in there, but I'm like, I mean, that was at a point where I realized I genuinely didn't care. I think there was one scene where these activists wanted to save this massive shark that was much bigger than these particular sharks were supposed to be, because obviously this shark is, I don't know if it was mutating or something. I don't really, again, I was, by this point, I didn't really care. And she gets in the water of this, in the catacombs. They discover it's hiding in the catacombs because of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? And it eats her. And there's a really great shot where it eats her and they film it from the top and it like comes up below her. And I'm like, okay, good shot. Like, okay, this is, and then people start panicking because all these activists have turned up and they all start falling in the water, and there's other sharks in the water because these sharks are having babies when they're only like 2 months old. Because again, of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? And it was just, and then the end, I was like, where the fuck did all that water come from? It's really like, without giving the end away completely, the very last scene, I'm just like, this, where the Seine does not have that much water in it. Like, it's a river. It was nothing like Jaws. It was not good. And then I actually started this in May, I think, but it was only 6 episodes, but I finished Parasite the Grey on Netflix as well, which is a K-drama. The characters in the series are not the characters from the Japanese manga. They've taken the, like, because the idea of the manga is these parasites have fallen all over the world and they've infected a set number of people across the whole world. And the manga is based in Japan, but this is their Korea taking that same story with different characters.
Gotcha.
And it starts with like one girl, she is attacked by this guy and she's dying, and this parasite infects her. But normally what they do is they eat the person's brain and they completely take them over. But because this parasite had to heal her and save her body, it created this weird symbiotic thing where she still exists and her brain still exists, but this parasite exists within her as well.
Yeah.
And then the series is all about how these parasites want to take over the world, basically. And you've got this team. The Grey are this team of special forces team that are sent out to capture or kill them. It was really good. It was actually really, really good.
Final category is the wild card. So anything happened in life, memories, events, hobbies, etc. Sarah?
Basically, my family is here. My sister and the kids are here. My brother-in-law has been sort of back and forth in between Colorado and here, but they rented this lake place for an entire month, and I came up here for a week when they first got here, and then was back home for a week, and now I'm here for a second week, and it's been super fun and wonderful. And this is a beautiful lake. This is the same lake that where my grandparents' lake place used to be. and my it belonged to my cousin, and my cousin sold it recently, which was sad, but everybody was okay. But they decided to rent a place on the same lake, and so I'm very, very familiar with this lake and the area and everything, and it's just been wonderful to be up here. So we're just having a good time. There's lots of fishing, there's water stuff happening, and it's just, yeah, it's a nice little cabin. It's very comfortable. We're all super comfy, having a good time here, and it's been great. It's been great to be up here. So I that's the main thing that has been going on for me in June, and also now, is just spending time up at the lake. So that's pretty much it.
So my birthday was in June. And I decided to, well, one, I wanted to keep it low key because it was, I knew it was probably going to be a difficult time just with grief and everything. So some friends had suggested like doing a more like a bigger kind of get together gathering party. And I was just like, no, I don't think so. I just wanted it to be just more low key. But what I did was, at the suggestion of Sarah, who's had tarot readings from this particular person, I decided to give myself the birthday treat of a tarot reading from Kellyanne Maddox. And yeah, so it's the second time I was treating myself to a tarot reading. The first time was a difficult reading. This one was much better. Like, it was just, I have to say, I will definitely be getting more readings from Kellyanne. She was amazing. She was amazing. It was a wonderful reading. It was a healing reading. It was a fantastic time. And just like, the best way to spend a birthday. Amazing interaction. And yeah, she knows what she's doing. And she used the Cosmic Slumber Tarot, which is an interesting choice. Yeah. She was at someone else's residence. And that's the deck she decided to bring with her. So yeah, that was interesting. And then, it's just kind of part of like the birthday loot. I got things for hobbies, I guess. So I got another one of these. I didn't even ask for it, but I got another Wooble. I'm like,
you sound so disgusted.
I know, like, you feel like somebody came in and kicked your dog.
No, it's just like, I mean, the blood, sweat, and tears I went into the janky Emilio turtle that I did. I wasn't about ready to necessarily repeat that, but now I feel like, and so I know I appreciate the gift. I do, because it's just, I just found it hilarious. It's like I made it through the first Woobles kit. And it came out super janky. And now I have this other Felix the Fox. I'm just like, okay, great. How hard is this one going to be? So yeah, it looks like my crocheting days are not done. In fact,
it's so cute. Can you hold it closer to the screen? It's adorable. He's like a little rainbow fox.
A little rainbow fox. Felix the Fox. So
adorable.
So yeah, that will be a future endeavor. And then same friend, she got me this thing, which is like I don't know if either of you have ever tried this. It's like a punch.
Oh no, I'd like to, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, so it's supposed to, I think this is the design. So it's like a flower type design, and here's the canvas. Yeah, and then this thing, which is, I guess, for the yarn to print into the canvas. So yeah, so that'll be yet another project that you shall maybe see in a future Three Girls Catch Up, if I end up figuring out how to do it and actually finish it.
So what did I do? Oh, for the solstice. So I think I've mentioned before, like, my friends own their own wood. So for the solstice, we actually spent the whole day on the Saturday in her woodland, and we had like we made our own like little candle holders with glass, and I say we made them with glass jars. We decorated them and did candle holders and stuff, and then we did a ritual and we did food. And a friend of mine is a tattoo. She is a qualified tattooist, but she also does like the needle. I want to say needle punch. That sounds very aggressive, but that is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a stick and poke tattoo. So she did a couple of tattoos for people like in ritual space and stuff, which was really cool. And it's just a really lovely day. We just had, the weather was lovely. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I had quite a quiet June, actually. I mainly read a lot, which is pretty standard.
Well, that wraps it up for us. So thank you for joining us for this catch up. And depending on when this posts, we may or may not have already done the live, which will also be on my channel, July 13th, the usual time, where we will be doing the tag, the mid-year tarot tag. Thank you so much. And until the next time, much love and take care.